So we're here about Waratah Seed, which is the New South Wales government's pilot space qualification mission. And our tagline is low-cost access to space for New South Wales and Australian technology. Waratah Seeds are led by CUAVA, the ARC Training Centre for CubeSats, UAVs and their applications, with other partners that I'll detail in a moment. This is intended just to be a short overview for those people who perhaps didn't read the guidelines or look at the website beforehand. We're really trying to get out of the lab and bring people's tech into space. And so we're really about flight qualifying space technologies. It's a LEO flight. December 2022 is when we're aiming for. And we basically have two approaches for people to put their payloads on board. One is a payload competition for New South Wales company-led teams. And that's the route to orbit that we're talking about in this particular Q&A session. And there's also a commercial clients process as well, which is open to everybody. So here are our consortium members. Mentioned CUAVA already. There's AXO, which is the Australian Centre for Space Engineering Research at UNSW with Andrew Dempster, Delta V Space Hub with Tim Parsons, Sabre Astronautics with Jason Held, Macquarie University with Etta Seaton, for instance, University of Sydney's me, I suppose, and then UTS with Roger Commode and Justin Littman. So where are we? Mission timeline, you can see it here in T+0 for the competition and announcement. So we're somewhere here at about +1 month. Payload selection is intended to be 4 months from the beginning, and we're looking at that in early December. And we're looking at a flight in December 2022 with lots of milestones in between. Engineering models, for instance, due approximately April next year, and then the flight models in June. So what are we about? We're a CubeSat. I think all of you here know what a CubeSat is, but I'll belabor it just in case. It's a satellite built up of 10 centimeter on the side cubes, with one new satellite being a 10 centimeter on the side cube. 6U then has 6 of those 1 unit cubes. Here is a 6U CubeSat. Let me just change to a laser pointer. So here we are with our 6U. And of that 6U, we're expecting to have 1.5U be the satellite subsystems. We then have 1.5U, or 1/4 of the volume, available for the payload competition. Nominally 6 1/4U slots, and then 3U for commercial payloads. And a ride share, of course, means that we're not directly invested as the provider of the spacecraft in the individual payloads, except, of course, that we want them to succeed. Each of those payloads, though, is distinct in general, coming from a different payload team, and the rideshare satellite will support each of those with power, communications, both data and networking, of course, and a stable platform for operations. Okay, so we've gone through the major part. Let me just recap this, where just emphasize that for the payload competition, which is one of the 3 routes for involvement, Wolfpack Space Hub is a partner in that development with Waratah Seed. And of course, we've got the commercial clients process, which is what we're looking at now, which is for 3U of the 6U CubeSat. And then, of course, there's also opportunities for sponsorship, whether that's payload funds directly for a given payload, or it's sponsoring a type of payload, or it's provision of staff time, facilities, etc. And it's worthwhile remembering that as part of Waratah Seed, the host partners are expecting at least one of our payload teams to be embedded or hosted at their institution, and they'll be giving some facilities, student time, etc. For that. Volunteering, of course, is another way, And let's skip now into the commercial client process Q&A, led by Tim Parsons, CEO of Delta V Space Hub and the New South Wales node of SmartSat CRC, and a number of other things he could list here. And so over to you, Tim.
Thanks very much, Eva. And what I've done is I've also put in the chat, and if I may very quickly share the screen, what I'm going to do is literally say that the center of this is going to be the website. So this is the link that I just put into the chat, and we're going to be recording this in our video. This is going to be moved to our website in a little while when we've finalized the design and built that. But basically, all the detailed information is here, so you can read that at your leisure. And in particular, the guidelines and the info pack are here. And the info pack goes into some detail about some of the things that we're talking about today. Certainly the technical guidelines, talks about the interface control document. It has all sorts of different details in there for you to peruse at your leisure. And I'll stop sharing now. And basically, so that website and that place is where you're going to be able to find a lot of the information you need from both an engineering and a commercial point of view. Eva, if you could whack up that last slide you had on our selection criteria. So fundamentally, we're encouraging people to lean in and engage with us. The selection criteria ultimately that we're going to utilize will be, of course, can the commercial client build the payload that they say they are going to build? Do they have money? So we're certainly going to be taking deposits, and also, if there are questions, look, what can we do? What are the available grants? What are the kinds of partnerships? What are the kinds of ways we might be able to pay for this? We're definitely keen to have those discussions. As Eva mentioned, I have other hats on, such as the SmartSat New South Wales node, as well as I'm part of the SmartSat national management team, and I'm in a few other places. And so there's definitely conversations we can have. I am pretty certain that paying for and developing a space hardware by an Australian company is definitely eligible for the R&D tax incentive, which is 43. Some excellent singing going on there. We might mute that one, thank you. Which is definitely eligible for the 43.5 cents in the dollar rebate. So for the work that you've done, as well as in New South Wales, we have the MVB grant, and I know in a number of other states and territories in Australia, we have similar grants. Universities also have ARC grants and so forth, but we'll definitely want to assess that. If you have a terrific payload, commercial payload, but you're uncertain how you're going to pay that, please come and talk to us and let's talk it through. We're also going to examine risks for the Waratah Seed project. Now, of course, there are certain types of payloads that it might be pyrotechnics or have certain dynamic aspects that may not be suitable to our kind of mission, or indeed our launcher, who have their own requirements for safety and security. So, a payload that distributes fireworks from orbit might not get the grant. So we also have certain payloads, certain countries in the world that are currently sanctioned for various reasons, and some of those, a payload that might come from one of those countries, it might be problematic for the Waratah Seed project because we may not get permission to fly that payload. The final is, of course, your timing. The important thing to remember as a summary is that we are going to take care of almost everything. The the cost of the commercial flight, which is currently approximately $65,000 plus GST Australian. That cost does not only includes launch, it also includes participating in the test program. It includes the certificates and approvals required that we are required to get from the Australian government to fly the payload, and it also includes data download and the different operational support gear. So it's a real, essentially what you're paying for, you're getting everything you need to do a rideshare mission with no hidden extras, unless, of course, you have a specific requirement that might require a particular change to the vehicle, like a particular kind of aperture that you might need on the side of the vehicle, or a particular type of shielding, or some other aspect that you might be extra for your vehicle, for your payload, that is going to impact on the vehicle. At which stage, okay, well, come and talk to us about that. And if that's something that we're interested in, there may be some extra costs and so forth involved. But fundamentally, we're keen to hear from you, to hear what your requirements might be, and learn from them and see what we can do to accommodate those. If we look at timing, we'll just go to the next page, please, Eva, Professor Cairns. And so the payload competition applications have opened. The guidelines you've seen, they're live. We've now got a approximately 3-month process during which we want commercial payloads to approach us to have that discussion, the commercial and technical feasibility discussions, engineering discussions, and so forth. And essentially, we want to have agreed and deposits, ideally, or certainly concluded agreements by the 7th of December. And at that stage, then there'll be a roughly 6 months time frame to deliver the flight model. And of course, during the time that you are selected as a commercial payload, right through to the point that you deliver the final flight item, there will be plenty of interaction with our engineering team. There'll be plenty of tests, both software and hardware, that we'll work through. There'll be various iterations and learnings that will all go on together in this, what is really a very historic mission, and Australia's first commercial rideshare mission, in fact. So that's fundamentally what we're looking to do. Professor Cairns and his team, including the engineering team, Zuling Bai, who you can see here, and others, will be doing the technical determination, the legal and regulatory determination, and of course financial determinations of our ability to accept you as a payload. And we're looking forward to terrific stories that also we'd like to be able to tell about our commercial payloads, if they so wish, alongside our competition payloads. So fundamentally, I think that's the information part of this briefing. And now I think we'd be open to Q&A, or indeed any other commentary from any members of the team, if there's anything that you think I might have missed.
So I don't want to add anything in particular to what you said, Tim. I suggest we go ahead and start with the first question, which is from Brian Lim, which everyone can read here, but for the flight qualifications, as in the thermal vac and vibe test, will it be something that Waratah Seed does or not? So the answer is that we will do thermal vac and vibe tests for the integrated spacecraft, which obviously then includes your payloads. So we will do that. And so unless there are particular reasons, you wouldn't have to do it yourself. Now, if you had something, a payload that involved a lot of batteries, for instance, or had something else that might be, did a lot of outgassing, or was very fragile, you probably would want to do your own thermal vac or vibe testing for yourself. Now, that part of that might come as part of your critical design review of your own in your payload development, but maybe not. So for some things, you probably would need to do a thermal vac or vibe of your own, and that's something that would be coming from the launcher. Basically, the launching people don't like things that have pressure vessels in them that might outgas a lot, be subject to, be mechanically fragile. So some things might require additional testing, but in general, I would expect most people to be happy with providing their payload, suitably ready, as in it works fine from when it's connected properly electrically, that it has the software that it needs for and can handle the data connections that we require. If it does those things and it's mechanically stable, then probably you don't need to do a thermal vac or vibe of your own.
Yeah, we need to have a look at your mechanical design, Brian, or any potential potential groups interested in this. We need to have a look at your mechanical design. The engineering team will kind of access the maturity of the design. If we decide this is really risky, we may ask you to do a vibration test before you integrate it into the satellite. But generally speaking, if you're doing something really, really simple, a PCB with some small cameras on it, generally speaking, it'll be fine. So also it's sort of a case-by-case study, and we will provide help if we have to. If a lot of customers will need to will require this vibration test, we'll organize a test campaign from our side, so we combine everyone together and have a cheaper price and do it all together. So, yeah, so
yes, but that would be in general additional.
Yeah, that will incur additional cost. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's worthwhile mentioning that the Spacecraft Innovation Lab at UNSW that Andrew Dempster is the head of, and that involves Sydney and UTS and Macquarie, I think, as well, that has the capability for thermal vac and vibe of relatively small, relatively small payloads, but I think up to a 3U satellite as well. Andrew, do you want to add anything more to that?
Sorry, just don't change headphones. Yeah. So there's thermal vac. We're going to get a shaker. There's anechoic chamber as well. So yeah, there's a number of test facilities which will be coming online later this year, hopefully. COVID permitting, as usual. But yeah, we've got quite a nice setup coming together for those purposes. So if anyone wants to know more detail about what's in there, we haven't opened it yet, but we can probably answer questions if people want specifics.
Thank you. And I'll just add, with my New South Wales SmartSat CRC hat on, shortly, when we can get the announcement out, we will be announcing a thing called the Infrastructure Access Program for New South Wales teams, and that will cover 100% of the costs of such access to university infrastructure. And so I think there's an opportunity there that if you get early into that design process, get Zuling Guy and others feedback, and you realize that you might need to do some extra testing, perhaps with Andrew, and there's a cost to be covered, then we'd want you to apply to the New South Wales SmartSat node for funding, and that's what that money is for. So you can see our devious and evil plan for helping New South Wales companies and organisations. If your organisation is from interstate, then partner up with a New South Wales organisation, and you'll be eligible to access that fund. But thank you for that answer. That was a great comprehensive answer. Brian, did that meet your needs?
Yes, it certainly did. Thank you very much.
Taufik Hook has also asked a great question. Taufik Hook, of course, from Spiral Blue. You're in the news a lot these days, Taufik. It's fantastic to have you here today. Would payloads have to apply for launch licenses individually from the Australian Space Agency, or can we do one jointly for the whole mission?
Yep. So the answer there is that we'll do one jointly for the whole mission. We'll be doing that for the overseas payload permit from the Australian Space Agency. We'll also be doing that for the Defence Control Act, and we'll also be doing that for the ACMA. We will, of course, then require all of the relevant information to be provided by the payload teams.
Thank you, Eva. And so definitely a relief to hear. And have a good look at the control document that is in their website for more detail on specifications and so forth. And the ACMA in particular, Eva, that's specific to the kinds of radio frequencies and so forth that we'll be using, correct? So payloads that might have specific needs for emitting beyond the specifications there, they may be some extra processors. We'll need to see that early as possible. Correct. I'm hoping that's correct.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. We will have a standard amateur frequencies, sorry, I should be precise, 70 centimeter and 2 meter amateur band comms as backup primarily. And then we'll also have high-speed comms in the range of 2 gigahertz or so for our comprehensive data downlink. But, and we'll definitely be doing the ACMA for that. If somebody does have a radio, I'll just call it a radio experiment on board, then we'll also have to do we'll have to include in our application appropriate details for that. And that shouldn't be too bad. The University of Sydney / CUAVA has a satellite network operator license from the ACMA. And so we can add additional projects such as Waratah Seed and also additional frequencies and so on in there. There might be some additional costs related to that.
Thank you very much, Eva. And so another point we should probably make is while this is seen as the commercial clients info pack, in fact, the word commercial just means that they'll be paying customers. It could be a government agency, it could be an R&D, a university, as much as it could be a company or even a not-for-profit of some kind. So we're, of course, open to all customers. The designation commercial doesn't mean that you have to be a business. It just means that we are treating you as a customer or as a client. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah,
it's true. Sorry, can I just say, and it's true that you don't have to be a New South Wales-led team in the commercial client division. You can be from anywhere in Australia, led anywhere in Australia, and in fact, you can be an international as well. We prefer generally to have Australian and New South Wales companies and groups involved, but if we get an excellent international client, that comes in early, gets accepted early, then we'll accept them.
And if you're an international client watching this video, please do reach out. We'd love to chat to you. This is the first of a number of these missions that we want to run, and we're hoping to broaden our scope as we get more experienced and learn more about rideshare.
I guess I have a question for Tim. If a company would like to join the mission and put a payload, but may not have the financial capacity, would they be able to ask a sponsor to sponsor them, or to apply for match funding from the government to co-fund the payload?
Thank you for that question, Ivan. I'll slip you the $5 later. We definitely want you to come and talk to us. We're frankly very intrigued and fascinated and curious about what kinds of payloads people may, or what kinds of missions people may want to power. And so certainly we are keen to hear from you. And if you're like, we have a very interesting mission, we have the capability to deliver the actual flight, we just don't have the dollars, then let's talk. And we're certainly also in conversation with a lot of companies and other organizations that are interested in hearing from our payload partners and may well be interested in sponsoring. So do please come and engage with us and let's talk.
I've certainly heard from one of the primes that they're exploring the idea that they might help one or more smaller Australian companies put a payload on board and then be, then become part of their international, what's the right term, supply chain. So there's multiple ways potentially to get money, but and to involve sponsors. But remember that one of the criteria is timing. So if we get a lot of really good, in inverted commas, commercial client applications at the start. It could be that all of the commercial client volume will be taken up if you take a long time to get your application in.
I guess I have another question, Tim. For those who are joining us from abroad Australia, perhaps a prime, and are maybe looking to sponsor a SME or startup for the payload, why would they do that? Why would they want to contribute towards the Australian space industry?
That's a great question. So we believe that Australian companies and Australian research teams indeed have highly original ideas. They have very advanced technical capabilities. We believe that they represent a resource for the world, not just for Australia. And we think that if a prime sees a payload opportunity and thinks, wow, this is something that actually our customers could benefit from, we're confident that Australian payload teams and especially startups such as Spiral Blue, who are here, Sabre Astronautics also represented, and others can and should be included in those international supply chains. We're looking to see novel technologies that maybe solve problems using new microelectronics. They may be doing all sorts of different things: avionics, communications, measurement, sensors, Earth observation, anything and everything. And so I would say the reason would be they would see something novel, see something interesting, and realize that they were dealing with a solution that they could perhaps back for orders of magnitude, perhaps several orders of magnitude less in expense than current legacy solutions. So that's my rationale. And I think also if they're interested in participating in the Australian ecosystem, there is a public opportunity to publicly declare your support for the innovation ecosystem by doing that, and mark yourself out as a company that is supporting local sovereign capability to the government and to defense and the other civilian space sector players who are interested in building local capability and seeing Australia become a leader in the next generation of space equipment. And so I think Ivan, there's both an engineering, a commercial, financial, and also a PR reasons why I think if you were wanting to participate in JP 9102 or JP 9630, and you could see that there's an opportunity to help a payload team and gain a moral advantage in your bids and your engagement, then yes, you would do that. Any other questions from our current audience? And if you're watching in delayed time, do please send your questions through to info@waratahseed.space. We will assemble an FAQ. And if you are thinking about asking a question but you're not quite sure how to put it, please do send it through to that address. Again, info@waratahseed.space. And we will put that FAQ, dynamic FAQ, on our website to answer as we go. And that will become a resource also. So you'll be making a contribution to Waratah Seed and the Australian space ecosystem by asking your question and giving us the opportunity to give you an answer.
Okay. So any final questions? Andreas, do you want to ask a question or make a comment?
Hang on. Was there some? I wasn't trying to say anything. Was my sound coming through?
I think so, yes.
Oh, well, was it just fan noise? I apologize. I'm good.
It was mostly noise. It was fun. So anyone else? We're very keen to answer questions, but we're also happy if if we've answered your questions already, or if you want to go ahead and look in detail at the guidelines and the info pack. That should have, the info pack especially will have all the technical information you require or should require, and the guidelines will be more about the way in which you apply, timing, the criteria again, you really do want to have a relative. Maybe it's worthwhile saying that your application doesn't necessarily have to be a long one. It just needs to address those 4 criteria, which are technical readiness and feasibility, certainty of payment, risks, and then timing. And timing really is after the fact. Well, earlier is better, of course. So that doesn't necessarily have to be a long application. Could be, but probably we're looking at applications which are, I don't know, 3-4 pages plus supporting documents regarding technical readiness, for instance. Not necessarily long.
Well, I think with that, we may call it it time, unless there's one more.
If I can quickly, Tim, yes. Good afternoon, Ivan. Matthias from Airbus.
Oh, is this Matthias from Airbus? Oh, yes, hi, great to see you.
I joined late, but I'm very interested to hear about this briefing. Yeah. I will continue with Tim and many of you to explore what kind of collaboration is possible. I know many of you are keen to get the feedback on proposals being submitted. On this, I can just say we were still collating all the feedback from our R&D team. But as your question was related to some of the primes, I can say, of course, Airbus is keen to see if there's anything of these payloads which fit into either an Australian project or maybe overseas. And we will continue certainly after the Space Forum. And I thank Tim for the invitation to attend today.
Matthias, do you mind if I quickly introduce you to the group here, if that's okay?
Yes, of course.
So Matthias is from Airbus Defence and Space, based in Brisbane. He is part of a team called Team Meyer at the moment, which is set up by Airbus to set up a consortium of SMEs and universities to pursue the JP9102, the next gen satellite system. And so Matthias has been very supportive of the university sector, participating in the DIN NSSN workshop at the end of last year on space, which had led to a whole process of a call for innovation from researchers. I believe there was a very big turnout for that one, Matthias. And I invited Matthias here today because he's very supportive, and I do believe that Airbus will be able to benefit from this mission.
And thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Tim. I've got nothing to add for now, but I do agree what Tim hinted to. As in Prime, we want to support the Australian ecosystem. We want to help to build this Australian space ecosystem, and of course, it may be seen also in favor from the Commonwealth then if we really engage not just for a single purpose of one project, but in a broader sense.
Excellent. Very nice to meet you, Matthias.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Matthias. Great to have you here today. So I think with that, we may wrap it up, and we will be putting a copy of this video up shortly once Talia has worked her magic. Thank you so much, those of you who attended both of our sessions this afternoon. You'll be hopefully recorded for posterity on this, and we'd love it if you'd take yourselves off. Let us see your faces, and we can have a quick Zoom selfie here with everyone. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. Been great having you here today. Thank you for your support, and do spread the word. Just as a very last side note, it's approximately 20 minutes or so, apparently, to the launch that's going to occur at Southern Launch today with TI Space. So stay tuned to the Southern Launch Twitter channel to see what news we might hear from them. It'll be a nail-biting few minutes from now. Thank you, everybody, and we'll look forward to carrying you to space on the Waratah Seed.
And thank you me as well. I can be one of the two Ronnies here. Thank you from him and thank you from me, etc. So excellent. We'll look forward very much to having you involved in Waratah Seed going forward. So please stay involved and let us help if you've got questions or if you want to talk about some particular aspect. We're really looking forward to working with you and hopefully flying your payloads. Thank you.